The judge has ruled that David is ordered to stand trial on all charges for the murder of Celeste. All right, David's gonna have to go to trial unless he takes a plea deal, if they even offer one. The only plea deal I can see them doing is life in prison and save him from the death penalty, because the death penalty could happen here at some point if they decide to do it. I'm gonna read the full day though. It's pretty rough. Like always, hit subscribe, let's go. God, I didn't even know this. There was between 8,000 and 9,000 texts between David and Celeste. In one exchange, prosecutor said an argument erupted over David's friendship with another girl. David explained that she had been at his house to pick up Coachella guest wristbands. Celeste responded with an increasingly angry message writing, "Oh my God, I swear to God, I will kill you. I will string you to death." And later, she said, "I will tell my dad so many lies about you. I will end your career and your life." Prosecutors believe this spoke to motive because this was like a day or two before he lured her to his house. So this is a little girl though. Of course, she's going to be upset about things. She's getting manipulated by a grown man who is 19 or 20, whatever his age was. He's a piece of shit, whatever. Prosecutors then turned to text messages from April 23rd, the day they alleged Celeste was killed. Farrell testified that messages show Burke arranged an Uber to pick up Celeste near Lake Elsinore after she texted, "Get it to 33070, which Farrell said corresponded to the street where she lived. Later that evening, after the Uber arrived at David's house at approximately 10:10, David texted, "Gate open, door unlocked," followed by Uber said, "You're here, where you at? Hello, bro? Celeste." Farrell testified there were no further messages from Celeste after that point. Burke continued to text him, "Bro, blocking me, question mark. Hello, I'm gonna call Jen, bro. You're scaring me. What the fuck? Where are you? Please." He is literally like manufacturing fake texts, acting like she didn't get there to his home after killing her. That is what's happening right now. Tesla navigation and cell phone evidence they contend show Burke's Tesla left his residence around 11:30 that night and later traveled towards Santa Barbara, including stops near Lake Kachuma and a Tesla supercharger. During cross-defense attorney Blair Burke introduced a 90-page exhibit containing texts between David and Celeste between April 22nd and April 23rd. Burke told the court the exhibit was prepared using raw iCloud message data, arguing the defense had not previously had the benefit of Celebrate extraction. Silverman argued and told the court the defense had received the complete raw data and could analyze it in any format they chose. So the defense saying they didn't have the Celebrate phone extraction shit. The state is saying, nope, you did. Oh my God. Now they're bringing up just crazy texts that Celeste said to him when she's being manipulated by an adult. She said, "I will," as you can see on the screen. Farrell confirmed the message appeared on the records. Burke also highlighted Burke's response. Farrell confirmed the message appeared in records. David's response was, "You have turned it into a bigger thing than this conversation right now. The only way. Makes sense is when I don't tell you after the fact, you don't listen to me." She later pointed to additional messages in which Celeste allegedly threatened to contact David's mother and people associated with his work, writing she had an old phone number and could find your mom's number to text her anytime. And quote unquote, that word will spread to your work girl. Farrell acknowledged those messages referenced threatening to tell Burke's mother, kill him, make certain things public, but testified he did not recall seeing Celeste threaten to report David to law enforcement. Farrell testified investigators determined that members of Celeste's family, including her parents, aunt, cousins, and adult sister, as well as some school friends, knew about the relationship before April 25. He also confirmed investigators learned Celeste's parents signed a notarized travel consent form in September 24, allowing David to take her to London, that David attended church with Celeste's family and had previously taken her to the mall as well. Whoa, what? Why did her family allow that? What is happening here? Why did her family let a little girl go to London with a man, essentially? Farrell agreed that David's coworkers knew who Celeste was, though he disagreed with Burke's accusation that they understood the full nature of the relationship. At several points, David's lawyer attempted to introduce additional evidence about the relationship, including testimony she suggested Celeste had previously committed against David, referenced messages in which she argued Celeste discussed wanting to kill him. Farrell testified he did not remember seeing at least one message in which Celeste referred to wanting to do that, though he said he could not say it occurred on multiple occasions. Vince trying their hardest. It's some fucked up shit, trying to say wanted to unalive herself. So disturbing. Either way, there's a lot of evidence this guy did it. All right, when I say Burke, it's David's lawyer, by the way. I'm going to replace his name with just David. That's what I've been trying to do, but I want to clarify that. Burke also aimed to show Celeste as the person who repeatedly initiated plans to meet with David in the days before her death. Reading from a defense exhibit, she highlighted a message in which Celeste asked, "Am I able to see you on Thursday at all?" "Bro, there's no possible way I cannot see you at all this week. Let me see you Wednesday night." "Well, we need to talk in person, please, man." David responded no to several of those requests before later agreeing to see her. Burke further noted it was Celeste who suggested that David order an Uber 8:30 on April 23rd and who later texted him almost there and asked to open the door if he was home. Farrell agreed those messages originated from Celeste. So that's an interesting twist there. She was asking to see him a lot, and she wanted the Uber to his house. The prosecution had been saying he lured her there. I mean, either way, she is under. This girl can't consent to nothing. Farrell acknowledged investigators determined David had been using a virtual reality headset, playing a game, and interacting with 2 other people while Celeste was traveling to his home in the Uber. Burke confirmed investigators placed Uber's arrival around 10:10, and David's text asking her where you at about 10:31. Farrell agreed investigators' timeline to focus on that roughly 20-minute period where they say he killed her. He also acknowledged investigators had no eyewitness who saw Celeste exit the Uber, no witness who observed what occurred inside Burke's house, or David's house, during that period, and no communications documented what David and Celeste were doing between approximately 10:13 and 10:31. Defense point out they have no eyewitnesses of her going in the home or anything, and they don't know what happened during that time period, even though it's common sense what happened during that time period, but this is what defense lawyers are going to do. They're going to point out. So, on redirect, Silverman asked why investigators were unable to get the surveillance video footage from that relevant time period. Farrell testified that because Celeste's body had been hidden, investigators did not know where to focus their search until months later. Any potential relevant surveillance video wasn't available. Closing, defense attorney Marilyn Benarski urged judge to dismiss all charges, arguing prosecutors had failed to present sufficient evidence to establish probable cause on any count, including the special circumstance allegation. Yeah, okay. The state didn't present sufficient evidence. Come on, bro. You're delusional. That's a Hail Mary. Bernarski told the court the defense was challenging the prosecution's case on 5 separate grounds, beginning with the first-degree murder charge. Focusing on the murder count, Bernarski argued prosecutors had not established either express malice or an implied malice, both of which are required under California law. She acknowledged prosecutors presented evidence that Celeste died, noting DNA and blood evidence found in Burke's garage and Tesla were consistent with dismemberment, but she argued that is the evidence of a death, not a killing. What the fuck are you talking about, lady? Huh? She is dismembered, cut up. It's evidence of a death, not a killing. That is the most fucking thing I've ever heard. And yes, I just used the R word. And specifically not proof that David intentionally killed her. Yeah, okay. She characterized the prosecution's case as entirely circumstantial, arguing it may suggest a type of homicide occurred, but does not establish murder or the required mental state. Bernarski argued there was no evidence Burke had any intent to kill her. Pointing to the text introduced during Farrell's cross, she told the judge the messages reflected affection rather than hostility, saying David repeatedly expressed love and concern for Celeste, even during disagreements and after breakups. According to Bernarski, the text from Burke contained no threats, no history of violence, and no indication David harbored a deliberate intent to kill. She argued the text messages showed significant provocation from Celeste. She pointed to messages in which Celeste threatened to kill David, arguing his communications undermined the prosecution's theory of implied malice. I love how the defense lawyers are completely ignoring so far that they were in a straight-up relationship when she's a little girl. David Bernarski argued those statements constituted considerable provocation and said the prosecution had failed to establish the absence of provocation required to support an implied malice theory. Defense also relied heavily on testimony of Deputy Medical Examiner Grant Ho. Bernarski noted Ho testified Celeste died from 2 penetrating wounds, but acknowledged he could not determine how the injuries occurred, the order in which they happened, whether they happened simultaneously, what weapon caused them, or whether the wounds bled internally or externally. Ho's homicide determination rested largely on the post-mortem dismemberment, concealment of the body, and was absent of any explanation for the death. Bernarski further argued that Ho repeatedly testified that injuries could have caused difficulty breathing or fatal bleeding, but could not say with certainty what actually occurred because of the advanced decomposition. She reiterated that Ho acknowledged he was not a trauma surgeon and testified that the timing and effects of the wounds were outside his expertise. The medical testimony established only what was possible, not what actually happened. Yeah, okay. What remains is a suspicion arising from concealment. Concealment is not murder. Bernarski next argued prosecutors failed to establish probable cause for any of the 3 special circumstance allegations, claiming each required a higher level of proof than the evidence presented. They failed to show David deliberately lured her to his home. She said the evidence instead showed Celeste repeatedly insist on coming to David's home, despite his initial reluctance. Bernarski pointed to text which David repeatedly told Celeste no. Quote unquote, she set the time and place, Bernarski argued. Yeah, the little girl, by the way. He continued to convince her otherwise, asked her to wait, put it off, in fact, telling her no. Yeah, totally not manipulation. Because guess what? He ended up doing it. There was an Uber that ended up happening, so he put the effort in doing that. She also noted that testimony that David was interacting with 2 friends while playing video games, arguing that evidence failed to establish he was watching and waiting for her. Jesus, bro. Ho testified he could not determine how the fatal wounds were inflicted, the order in which they occurred, or what weapon caused them. She's argued Ho's testimony about the fatal abdominal wound traveled front to back was inconsistent with the prosecutor's theory of a surprise attack. The medical examiner did not prove that. It disproved that. All right, about the financial gain, silencing a witness. I mean, he did make millions of dollars, and that was all going to go away if this got out. Theory was speculative. David's record, contracts, royalty, advances, and millions of dollars in assets did not depend on Celeste's death. Benarski claimed prosecutors improperly relied on Burke's future music career, calling future earnings prospective contingent income rather than a guaranteed financial benefit. Benarski also pointed to testimony from Interscope executive who said future earnings were uncertain and subject to the company's discretion. A prospective music career is not a concrete financial gain, calling the prosecutor's theory novel and unsupported. Now they challenge the special circumstance of him silencing her. She argued that the evidence showed only that Celeste threatened to expose the relationship to family members, friends, and online, not to law enforcement. But that would ruin his career, though. Celeste threatened to tell David's mother, damage his reputation, and ruin him socially and professionally, but never threatened to report him to police. Benarski urged the judge not to hold David to answer any of the charges, arguing prosecutors failed to establish advanced planning, deliberate intent, financial motive, or witness intimidation. She stated in conclusion that evidence presented at the preliminary hearing established only that Celeste died and that her body was later dismembered and concealed. Not the prosecutors have met the legal burden required to support the murder charge or any of the three special circumstances. These fucking defense lawyers, man. Now, Beth Silverman, here we go. I'm sure the court isn't surprised to hear the people's... Silverman argued California law permits both malice and intent to be proven through circumstantial evidence, noting that any homicide case, particularly those involving the abuse of, are built without eyewitness testimony. Yeah, like, just because we can't see something doesn't mean it didn't happen. I've seen comments like that about this case and other cases. They're like, it's not on camera. How do we know it happened? You can look at all the other evidence and put it together. Like, all the other circumstantial evidence can come together to prove the state's case. Silverman argued the evidence showed that she was threatening to, out everything. She traveled to Hollywood Hills home within 20 minutes of arrival. The text message indicates Celeste stopped responding. Within 20 minutes of her arrival at the defendant's home, she's obviously dead based on the text messages. She rejected the defense argument about the medical examiner. It was clear that Celeste died from at least 2 penetrating wounds to the torso. Acknowledging the decomposition created some limitations, Silverman argued that the autopsy was not inconclusive. It's clearly stated that the cause of death was 2 wounds to the torso. Silverman argued the prosecution was not required to prove David literally watched for Celeste's arrival, but that he launched a surprise attack after luring her to his home. David ordered the Uber, texted her saying the gate was open and the door unlocked, and said those actions meant he was prepared for her arrival. I mean, yeah, it's literally what he said. Like, he put the effort in. He might have been saying no at some point, but then he ended up doing it, which could be manipulation. Now with the financial motive, she cites some 2008 cases or whatever. The law does not require financial gain to be the sole or primary motive for killing. Instead, she said the courts have recognized that simply avoiding a financial loss can satisfy the financial gain special circumstance. She said David had a financial interest in protecting his music career. Hell yeah, he did. Which was threatened by his relationship with Celeste. She argued the evidence showed Celeste had repeatedly threatened to reveal the relationship. His motive was not only to protect his career, but also to prevent the possibility of any criminal charges. All right, now consciousness of guilt. She reminded the court that Riverside County Sheriff's deputies repeatedly contacted David after Celeste disappeared, and that LA County Sheriff's deputy later conducted a welfare check at his Hollywood Hill home. He acted calm per body cam footage and told deputies he barely knew her and met her only once. He lied. Lying to investigators is a red flag. Investigators established through digital surveillance footage and Tesla records that David was the last person known to drive the vehicle before leaving on tour. Silverman said the evidence suggested he parked the Tesla away from his home as Celeste's body decomposed inside and stocked the vehicle with numerous air fresheners to mask the odor. This idiot really thought those air fresheners was going to do something. It really seems like he ran out of time and didn't know what to do with her body and was like, fuck it, just park it on the side of the road somewhere. And his car, he's so dumb. Like, he really is. The blue plastic fragments embedded in her bones, the amputated ring and pinky fingers on her left hand, and evidence prosecutors say was destroyed or never recovered, including his phone. Investigators also recovered his aliases on Amazon and DoorDash, all that shit. Oh my God, this sentence, I'm not even going to say it out loud on the video, but you can read it, the highlighted one. They were together numerous times, all documented through text, photographs, and videos. I mean, all the conversations about this stuff that I'm highlighting. She believed that David loved her, but he manipulated her, led to jealousy and threats. She had no idea what awaited her that night she was killed. She argued David then made the multiple trips to Santa Barbara before continuing on with his music career as if she never existed, while continuing to order items to dispose of evidence. That's crazy, right? Like, bro was releasing his album on tour, talking to hundreds of people every day, like, in the middle of doing all this. Like, you got to be a fucked up person, man. I mean, even just talking to someone is just the biggest of red flags. Like, not right in the head. With Benarski arguing, prosecutors presented no evidence intended to prevent Celeste from testifying against Burke legally. Oh, no evidence of that? Just killing her and dismembering her? No evidence? Yeah, okay. She noted that the numerous relatives, friends, and business associates already knew about the relationship and argued there was no evidence that David ever attempted to intimidate Celeste or stop her from speaking. The opposite facts occurred here. Yeah, I'm sorry, lady, but no jury gonna believe that. Judge denied the defense motion to dismiss, finding prosecutors had met the relatively low burden of proof to require at the preliminary hearing. The trial could be 90 days after August 31st. So what is that? End of November, but I doubt that ain't gonna happen, bro. He ain't going to trial till 2027, if I were to guess. Sometime like next summer, maybe. I feel like a plea deal could happen here. Like he could see all this evidence and be like, fuck, man, just give me life in prison. Because there's a fucking good chance he could get the death penalty here. But that's only if the prosecutors want to give him just life in prison or something. Like they're not going to give him anything else besides life in prison. So this has been a rough time covering this the past week, but I'll keep covering if anything random happens. LA County is very hard to find documents or anything. And I would imagine a lot of it's sealed because of this whole situation. So sorry about that. Hit subscribe. Thanks for the support. Peace out, boys.